Today, we're diving deep into the future of one of the world's most incredible megacities, Mumbai. We're going to decode the blueprint, the actual rulebook that's shaping its skyline, its neighborhoods, and what life will be like there for decades to come.
I mean, just think about that for a second. How on earth do you plan for 20 million people? How do you handle the growth, the housing, the infrastructure for a city that feels like it's constantly expanding? Well, Mumbai's answer is inside a very dense, very detailed, and really powerful document.
And here it is. It's called the Development Control and Promotion Regulation, or, as everyone calls it, DCPR 2034. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but you can just think of it as the city's official rulebook for literally everything that gets built until the year 2034.
But this is so much more than just some dusty legal text. It's the master plan. It's the DNA of the future city. It dictates how high skyscrapers can go, how big parks need to be. It shapes the very fabric of Mumbai. Every single construction project, big or small, has to play by these rules.
Okay, so to really get what this rulebook is all about, you first need to speak the language. And in Mumbai's world of development, there are two terms that are absolutely critical: FSI and fungible area. Let's break them down.
First up is the big one, Floor Space Index, or FSI. The easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it as a development budget for a piece of land. It's a simple ratio that tells the builder exactly how many square meters they're allowed to build on their plot.
Let's make it super simple. Say you have a plot of land that's 1,000 square meters. If the FSI for that area is 4, then you get a budget of 4,000 square meters of total floor area to build. Now, you can build it short and wide, or you can build it super tall and skinny, but you cannot go over that 4,000 square meter limit.
And this one number directly shapes what the city actually looks like. A low FSI means you're going to see shorter buildings and less density, kind of like in the suburbs, but a high FSI, that gives you the green light for those soaring towers and much greater density. And for a vertical city like Mumbai, where every square inch of land is precious, that's everything.
Now, on top of that main FSI budget, developers can also get something extra. It's called fungible compensatory area. If FSI is your main budget, just think of this as a bonus budget. It's extra buildable space that works just like regular FSI.
So why would the city give out this bonus? Well, it's actually pretty smart. It's usually for things that make buildings better and more livable. You know, stuff like balconies, terraces, and service areas. This way, developers are encouraged to design better apartments without it eating into their main FSI budget.
Okay, so now that we've got the lingo down, let's look at the big picture. How does the city actually use these tools, FSI and fungible area, to solve some of Mumbai's biggest, most deep-rooted challenges? Well, it really boils down to two grand strategies.
And first up is one of the most pressing and frankly visible issues in Mumbai, slum rehabilitation. The DCPR 2034 lays out a super detailed plan to transform these informal settlements into proper, formal housing, using a public-private partnership model.
So here's how it works. First, you need consent. Over half the residents, 51% or more, have to agree to the plan. Then, a developer comes in to build brand new apartment buildings. Here's the deal. The original residents get a new home completely free of cost. And in return for that, the developer gets a really powerful incentive, a ton of extra FSI to build more apartments on that same land, which they can then sell on the open market for a profit.
And here you can see the math that makes this whole thing possible. This is straight from the regulations, and it shows the incentive FSI a developer gets. You'll notice it's not a one-size-fits-all number. It changes based on things like how dense the slum is and what the land rates are in that area. This carefully calculated financial model is really the engine that powers these huge urban transformations.
All right, on to the second grand strategy. It's called cluster development. Now, instead of redeveloping just a single old building or one small pocket of a slum, this approach is about thinking bigger, much bigger. It tackles an entire neighborhood or a cluster all at once.
The key word here is scale. To even qualify for this scheme, the project has to cover a really large continuous area. We're talking at least 4,000 square meters in the island city and 6,000 in the suburbs. And that kind of scale lets you do so much more than just put up new buildings.
And the upsides here are pretty clear. When you're planning on a bigger canvas, you can design things properly. You can make sure there are wider roads inside the new development. You can make space for common facilities like parks and community centers. and you can guarantee more open green space. It's a huge shift from messy, piecemeal work to smart, holistic urban renewal.
So we've covered the language and the two big redevelopment strategies, but the regulations also have these really important mechanisms built in to make sure that as the city grows taller, it's also growing smarter and providing for the daily needs of all its citizens.
And this is absolutely crucial. It's not all about private construction. Take Regulation 16, for example. It basically forces large projects to set aside land for public amenities. This is how you make sure that as density goes up, the public infrastructure, things like fire stations, hospitals, and schools, can actually keep up with the growth.
So the DCPR 2034, it's a complex, it's ambitious, and yes, sometimes it's a pretty controversial roadmap. But the rules are in place. This framework of incentives and regulations is designed to push the city's development in a very specific direction. So the big question that's left is, what kind of city will actually emerge from this blueprint by 2034?